so much. Thank Sangye chedan zoye jonam la chanju pardo dani gyapso je daye chushe yebe sunam gi dola penje sangye jo bara jo sangye chedan zoye jonam la chanju pardo dani gyapso je daye chushe yebe sunam gi dola penje sangye jo bara jo zai xin bei yi zhou ji me do zhao mai ji zhao mai li xi nian de ai ge bon de san ge xin do mian de ai mu ai wai zhou ge ai nama dai xin lam zhe bora zhou yi dama guru ran Mandala Gamni Yandaraya Mi. Okay. So for the next 2 hours, please have the proper motivation of the Bodhisattva's commitment or the bodhicitta, which is to make use of the next 2 hours for the sake of attaining enlightenment, achieving enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So with this motivation, we start today's session. Then I will just cover up what we what we discussed last week. And then that is the 5 hindrances or the 5 obstacles. That is what we discussed. And these 5 obstacles are the obstacles of in general for your Dharma practices, and especially for meditation. Yeah. Okay. So what we discussed last week was the 5 hindrances. The 5 hindrances. So before we talk about the 5 hindrances, as I said, it's an obstacle not only for not just for the general Dharma practice or anything positive action, but especially for meditation, right? So in this case, we also discussed in great detail about what a meditation is, what are we meditating, what is the outcome of meditation, all that. So we discussed something called the listening or learning. In Tibetan, we say Tö Sam Gom Sum. So listening, the literal translation is listening, contemplating, and meditation. Yeah, this is what we discussed last week. So basically, the first thing is to learn. You learn. Let's say you learn about bodhicitta. Then you learn about bodhicitta. When you learn about bodhicitta, there are so many texts from the Buddha himself, from many different masters, explaining what the bodhicitta is. So you don't know what to make of what, right? So it's a huge volume of text. You have learned so much. What do? You have to boil it down to take the things, essential things that is applicable for your daily practices, meaning contemplation, what to take from all this great. We talk about 84,000 volumes of Buddha's teaching, right? So from that, you have to take something that is applicable, practical for you. Of course, all the teaching of the Buddha is applicable and useful, but for this particular moment, I use this one. For that particular moment, I use that one, like that, step by step. So in order to check that, you need to contemplate. Okay, in the Lamrim book, Lamrim, it says this, like that. In the Wisdom Sutra, the Buddha said this, and that. You have to be able to take it down. So that is the contemplation. So learning, contemplation, contemplating. And then we use the term gom in Tibetan, which is usually translated for meditation. So that is meditation slash application. So if it's a bodhicitta, for example, something like bodhicitta, bodhicitta can be meditated upon, but just meditating, just thinking about bodhicitta is not sufficient, not enough. So we need action, compassion in action, or bodhicitta in action. So therefore, we have to apply the bodhicitta in daily lives, in our day-to-day life, in our this life, next life, furthermore, and until we become enlightened, until we reach the state of Buddhahood. So therefore, mindfulness slash, meditation slash application. Yeah. So totally, in total, learning, contemplating, and meditating. So these three. So you learn about bodhicitta, you think about bodhicitta, and then you put into action the concept of bodhicitta. So what you learn should be thought over. What you have thought over should be put into practice. So what you are practicing, what you are putting into application, what you are going through, what you have been thinking, pondering over, and what you have learned should be all like one stream, like rosary. It should be in one stream. Yeah, not separate. Just taking down some notes. Okay, let me go back to where we are. Okay. So in that sense, okay, now we know meditation or application, then contemplation, and then learning, right? So in this regard, in order to have a proper meditation, we need to have a proper concentration, contemplation, and in order to have a proper contemplation, you need to have a proper learning, right? Now, coming to the point, when you are doing meditation, or in general, in order to have a very successful, very efficient practice of virtue, very efficient practice of positive karma, we need to be wary. We need to be aware of the 5 hindrances or the 5 obstacles. Yeah, and then obstacles we discussed last week. So the first one is wildness, when the mind is totally going outside. Outside meaning anything that is not other than what you're focusing is outside. Outside does not mean outside the house. The first one, wildness, means going out, mind going out. That is the term we use in the spiritual. Mind going out means if you are supposed to think about a banana, and then your mind is thinking about an apple, that is mind going outside. Okay. If you are supposed to think about the Buddha's face, the Buddha Shakyamuni's face, and then you started thinking about Tara's face, that is mind going outside, wildness, like that. So first one is wildness, and then the second one is remorse, then the hateful thoughts, like wanting to harm someone, bring harm to someone, like that. Then dullness, lazy, etc. Then from dullness, you have somnolence, which is feeling drowsy and sleepy, basically not losing the attention to the focal point, to what you should be focusing on. And then an inclination to sensual pleasure, like food, nice things to see, entertainment, sensual pleasure, right? Like that. Nice food, nice drink, nice smell, this kind of thing. Of course, we enjoy all of that, but to have craving, attachment to any of the 5 senses, that is wrong. And then the last one is the doubt. The doubting about something positive. Oh, is it bad to prostrate to the Buddha? Like that. Is it a bad thing to, does it have any benefit to respect the Buddha? Should I stop meditating? Is meditating not helpful? That kind of thing. So it's not negative in the sense of like a bad karma. If you think like, oh, I think meditation is not good, Buddha is not a perfect being. If you think like that, it does not accumulate negative karma, okay? Thinking that Buddha is not wise is not a negative karma, but it's an obstacle for your positive karma. So you see the difference? It's not a bad thing on its own. I mean, it's a bad habit, of course, but if you think the Buddha is a bad person, if you doubt the Buddha being a good person, a perfect being, that thought itself is not a negative karma, but it hinders, right? It hinders positive karma to fulfill. Yeah. So like that. So these are the five hindrances or the obstacles that we should be wary of, that we should be beware of while practicing any virtuous activities. Yes. Hola, so now we start today's class, yeah? Today's session. Let me read the text first. Yeah. 대당 주주 타당 전부터 딩진 실업 묘조가 니테 딩진 실업 묘조가 니테 딜라 응은준 주지 대다니 또봉 시기 제모르 교방 last. So that's verse number 45. Verse number 45. Okay, where is it? So this has to it's kind of connected to what we discussed last week, in the sense that if you remember the verse from last week, the wildness, the remorse, we just discussed that one, right? So the last line of the verse that we discussed last week reads like that. Verse number 44 reads like this: are thieves that steal the gem of virtuous deeds. So the wildness, the malice, the remorse, the dullness, all these things are likened to a thief, a robber. It robs you of all your peace, or robs you of all the virtuous accumulation of the merit and virtue that you have um, procured, will be robbed by these five negative hindrances. Yeah. So having so what we are going to cover now, verse number 45, is something called the force. Okay, five forces. So if you have the five forces, so that five forces are so powerful, powerful enough to block what do you call the action, the stealing or the robbing of your positive accumulation by those five hindrances. So if you pay heed, if you pay attention to the five forces, then these five forces will protect you from the five obstacles. Yeah, so it's connected like that. So what we are going to cover today is something called the five forces, and it is also known as the five powers. So I don't know in exact like Tibetan or English or Vietnamese word what would be the actual difference between the power and force, but in the spiritual sense, especially here, when we talk about power and the force, the difference, there's a slight difference which I will cover. Power and force. So it is a force, and it can be a power too. That is what the today's reading is about. So there are five forces, okay, that we are going to cover. That five forces will protect us from the five hindrances. Now I will read the text in English. With faith and verse number 45, with faith and diligence and mindfulness and concentration, wisdom, five in all, you must strive hard to reach the highest state. As powers, these forces take you to the peak. So the term highest state and the powers and the forces were marked, as well as the term peak. So I will come to explain all these things. Yeah. So the first thing we have to be know about is the five forces. Okay, the five forces. So the five forces are faith, diligence, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. These are the 5 forces. So I've shared that with you in the comment box. Chat box. Faith here means having faith or having confidence, okay? Believing, strong belief. When you have a strong belief in something, then you gain confidence. So having a strong belief or having a strong confidence in the, of course, in the triple gem, the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, as well as the Four Noble Truths. So what does that mean? Having confidence or having faith in the Four Noble Truths. What does that mean? Okay, I will explain. So first one is faith. Having faith in the Four Noble Truths. Okay, what that means, I will explain. Four Noble Truths, if you recall, if you remember, the Four Noble Truths is suffering, the cause of suffering, the end to suffering, and the path to end suffering, right? So that's Four Noble Truths. So out of the Four Noble Truths, 2 are suffering and its cause. We don't want that. The next 2 are end to suffering and the path or the solution, the method to end suffering. Yeah. So these are what we want. So basically it can be summarized into what we need and what you don't need. When we say need, it doesn't mean like just anything you want, anything you desire. We are talking about what you essentially need. The bad things, the negative things, the suffering, abandonment. We have to abort them. We have to throw them away. Then cessation, right? Nirvana, end to suffering. Nirvana and the path to nirvana, the third and the fourth truth, is something that we must acquire. Yeah. So in the Four Noble Truths, 2 must be abandoned, 2 must be acquired. Throw away 2, bring in 2, right? So usually what we call that the perfect, the appropriate abandonment and appropriate procurement, what we have to keep and what we have to throw away. So having strong faith in the Four Noble Truths basically means knowing and then believing in the true truths that should be abandoned, suffering and its cause, and the true truths that should be adopted, the nirvana and its path. To simplify, very simple, make it very simple, confidence in the Four Noble Truths basically means to know what you must have and what you must not have. That is the summary of having faith in the Four Noble Truths. That's what it means. Not only this text, in any text, any Dharma text, if you see the mention of having proper faith in the Four Noble Truths, this is what it means. Knowing. If you don't know, you cannot have faith. If you cannot have confidence in it, sorry. If you knowing what to have and what not to have, and by knowing such a thing, then putting into application, don't do this, do that. That is the meaning of having faith or confidence in the Four Noble Truths, like that. Okay. Now, next one is diligence. Okay. Diligence means to put effort into something, trying very hard. That is what diligence means in general. Okay. But in the Dharma practice, Buddhist Dharma practice, spiritual practice, when we talk about diligence, diligence is always referred to something good. Let's say you try very hard to cheat someone or steal from someone, right? Due diligence. You put so much diligence, you put so much effort into stealing or telling lies or this and that. It's not considered diligence in the Buddhist, according to Buddha's teaching. Okay, that is, In ordinary lifestyle, it is diligence. If you plan something to steal something, to harm someone, you plan for months and months and all these things, it is diligence. You're putting your diligence, you're putting effort like that. So in the Dharma practice, diligence means putting effort into something positive. Yeah. And especially in this verse, when Master Nagarjuna talks about diligence, he's referring to putting due diligence in the application of the Four Noble Truths. What that means? What that means is, so we have to, what we are discussing right now with diligence is related, connected to what we discussed with faith, confidence. So having proper faith in the Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truth is not a God that we worship, right? So how do we have faith in Four Noble Truths? Having faith in Four Noble Truth means knowing what to abandon and what to adopt, what to keep, what to throw away. After having full confidence, full knowledge and confidence about what to what to be adopted and what to be rejected, then you put into application. You actually do that. Okay. Harming others, negative karma, right? Harming others is the cause of suffering. By harming others, harm will be inflicted upon me later on. So suffering and its causes. These two things come from the negative karma of harming someone, right? So these must be abandoned. Helping someone will lead, helping someone is the path to nirvana. By helping someone, I will be led to nirvana. So nirvana and its path, the third and the fourth noble truths. So the fourth and the third noble truths should be adopted. The first and the second noble truths should be rejected. So after having proper knowledge, the first one, faith, then you put into application. You actually do it. Just having faith. His Holiness Dalai Lama always talks about this. So having faith is very good, very important. But faith alone doesn't solve any problem. You actually have to put things into application, into practice. Yeah. So the second force is the force of diligence, putting due diligence in striving forward with appropriately rejecting and appropriately adopting in accordance with the teaching of Four Noble Truths. Now, next is mindfulness. So this can be tricky, okay? So mindfulness and concentration. So number 3 and 4 is mindfulness and concentration. So mindfulness is to be mindful of what you are contemplating on, what you're thinking about, and concentration is to be single-pointedly focused on what you're meditating. Let's say the face of the Buddha, right? The image of the Buddha. So mindfulness is whenever your mind is wavering, let's say instead of thinking of the Buddha's face, you are thinking even of Buddha's arm, the Buddha's chest. That is wrong in that case, in that particular case. Okay. In general, thinking of the Buddha's chest or arm is not wrong. But if you are supposed to, when you are meditating on the Buddha's face, or for that matter, if you are meditating on the Buddha's eyes, then if your mind goes to Buddha's nose, that is wrong, inappropriate. Like that. So whenever it goes remember what we discussed last week, when the mind goes outside meaning anything that is other than what you are supposed to focus. So if you are supposed to focus on the eyes and if you focus on the nose, that is outside. So whenever the mind goes outside, mindfulness brings it back. Yeah. Then concentration is to be totally focused on that object. So it's to simplify that, I sent a picture in the chat box. So take a look. So you have a camera, right? So the camera is like the meditation. Then within the camera, you have the shutter, like like that, that captures the picture, right? That captures the image. If the shutter does not capture, if the shutter does not work, then there will be no picture. So concentration is the shutter, and mindfulness is actually like the stabilizer. I don't know if you have seen, I just shared the picture. So when you have there's something called a gimbal. When you put the camera on a gimbal and you shake your hand here and there, but the camera always remain stable. No matter how shaky your hand is or your ride on the bus or bike is, the camera always remains stable, right? So no matter where your mind is trying to wander outside, the mindfulness always brings it back, stabilizes it. So mindfulness is the gimbal, the stabilizer, and concentration is the shutter. So that's the only that's the only visual that's the difference that I can explain easily or conveniently visually. So then we have the wisdom. So I maybe have to make a little bit correction. So concentration is like the sensor in the camera, okay? And then wisdom is the shutter. So the sensor has to be clear, clear in order to capture enough light. And then only when the shutter moves, when the shutter is activated, then an image is created. So you need to have a proper concentration, proper concentration, which is like a clean sensor. And in that clean sensor, all the images were displayed. And then when the shutter moves, then a picture is taken. So the wisdom is like a shutter in the sense that wisdom is something that distinguishes, distinctifies, I don't know if that's a word or not. So between what is appropriate and what is inappropriate, what is right, what is wrong. So wisdom is not just information, not just gathering intelligence or information, but wisdom is making an informed decision to take or not to take. Meaning, when you have a clear shutter, clear sensor, and then when you press the camera button, click the I don't know, camera button, then the shutter clicks and then the picture is taken. So whatever has been displayed or taken in the sensor during that time will be taken. Anything other than that will not be taken, meaning no image will be created. So wisdom is the mindset, the mental factor that distinguishes, that discriminates what is and what isn't. So when we say, for example, when we say this is a cell phone, right? Mobile phone. It is a mobile phone and it is not a chair or a car. So when we do not observe our mind, we just say very easily, oh, this is a mobile phone. But deep down in our mind, there are so many mental factors working to make sure that this is a mobile phone and nothing else. So what distinguishes this object as a mobile phone and not a car, not a house, not a chair, everything that it is not, and anything that it is, what is that mental factor which discriminates that, which justifies that? That is the wisdom. So put into more spiritual sense, in terms of rejection and adoption, like positive actions, like helping others, compassion, etc., and harming others, like stealing, robbing, cheating, etc. So to distinguish, minute distinction between a proper action and an improper action is made by the wisdom. And then we can go much more further, much more deeper in the sense of emptiness and selflessness, this and that. So main point is wisdom is like the shutter. What wisdom clicks stays. What wisdom does not click goes away, goes out. So the reason, yeah. So you know the Buddha for wisdom Buddha, when we call Manjushri. So Manjushri is always displayed holding a sword. It can be in his hand, it can be on a petal of leaves, a petal of lotus flower, etc. But he's always seen holding a sword, the sword of wisdom. So when you cut something with a sword or with a knife, there's always something is separated. When you cut something, one becomes two, right? And then uh, so this is the most symbolic representation of wisdom, because what wisdom does is it differentiates, it separates the real from the unreal. Okay, to put it simply, the truth from the imaginary. This is what the sword of wisdom does. So wisdom is not just information. Even if you have information, there's so a lot of wrong information. If you watch the news, you can have so many information. If you watch the news the whole day, you will not be any wiser. Okay, you will not have wisdom just by watching the news or reading a newspaper. You need to compare them and then use your analysis, and then you will get the wisdom after filtering out the news. So wisdom is the force that cuts, that separates the wrong from the right, the real from the unreal, the truth from the imaginary. Yeah. So therefore, it's like the shutter of the camera. When it clicks, it separates what is real for the camera, it captures, and what is unreal or non-existent and invisible, it cannot capture, like that. So therefore, wisdom. So basically, these five things are known as five forces, and they can also be referred to as the five powers. So the five things that we discussed is faith, diligence, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. So they are called five forces, and they can also be called five powers. And I will come to that now. So the difference between power and force, simply put, is force is something like a wall, a fence. It's very strong to stop attack from outsiders. Power is something that can not only withhold the outside forces, but can also attack, uh, can also overwhelm the attackers. Put it simply, force are defensive, powers are offensive as well. Defensive plus offensive. Okay, offensive in the sense that it can not only stop the attacks, but can overwhelm the attackers. Um, like that. So that is the main difference between a force and a power. When you read about the Dharma, in the Dharma, when something is referred to as a force or a power, that is what it means. There are things like the 10 powers of the Buddha, 5 forces of the Bodhisattva, etc., like that. So that's the basic meaning. That's what it means. So when, for example, let's say these 5 things that we just discussed, right? Wisdom, faith, concentration, diligence, etc., these things. So when you have them strong enough, then no outside forces, nobody else can influence you to go to take the wrong path. So you have it strong enough, yeah. Then you never make a wrong move. That is a force. So when you reach to a certain level of practice, not only those outside forces like the 5 hindrances can move you, but you can actually influence others who are in that negative path. You can redirect those who are in the wrong path to the right path. Or in other words, the negative emotions that the five hindrances that you have within yourself are not only blocked, but are overwhelmed. They are squeezed away, squeezed out, eliminated. The same thing, the same five thing. When you at a certain level, you can block them, and then after reaching a higher level, you can not only block them but even destroy them. So that's the difference, yeah, between the force and the power. Yeah. Where are we now? Okay, yeah, power and the force. So I have to now go to verse number, sorry, the third line. You must strive hard to reach the highest state. Okay, and I have to, and then there is on the fifth, sorry, the fourth line is as powers, these forces take you to the peak. Uh, so what does it mean by the peak, the highest state or the peak? They're the same thing. Um,
Yeah.
So so these are, so if you don't know the context, then it doesn't make any sense. So the context here is in reference to something called okay, a preparatory path of preparation or preparatory path, something called preparation path, the path of preparation. Okay, so this path of preparation comes in something called the five paths to Buddhahood. Mhm. Uh, so the path of preparation is one of the path to Buddhahood. Mm. Usually we call, uh, yeah, the five path. Okay. So the second of the five path is known as the preparation, path of preparation. The first one is called the path of accumulation, accumulating great merit. Second one is called path of preparation. And this topic, this subject, this verse is related to path of preparation. Okay. Then we have something called the path of seeing, to see. And then there's something called the path of meditation, four. Then after that, there is a path by the name of path of no further learning. That is the path of Buddhahood, Buddha. So path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, and the path of no learning. So this verse that we are discussing is is in accordance to, is connected with the second path, the path of preparation, preparing. Now, okay, now this is going to go a little bit deep, okay? So fresh your mind. Uh, so the five paths, as I said already, the first two paths, path of accumulation and path of preparation, we call that the path of ordinary being, ordinary practitioner. Okay. Then the next three, the path of seeing, the path of meditation, and the path of no learning, of course, are known as uh, the supermundane, uh, the path of the supermundane being, or the path of the noble beings, sublime beings, right? So beyond the path of seeing, those who have not seen, perceived, seen emptiness directly, because emptiness is a concept, so it cannot be seen like this mobile phone in general. But you can, especially not with your sensual eyes, with your naked eyes. So what we need to do, you need to use your wisdom eye or your the sixth sense to see emptiness, like we see a mobile phone or a computer, etc. So in in our ordinary sense, it's kind of unimaginable, unfathomable how to see an emptiness. I mean, to even understand emptiness is a so far thing. It's a very far thing for us. So the main point, before until the first two path, the path of accumulation and the path of preparation, you are seeing emptiness, but in a conceptual way. Like when I explain emptiness to you, you can conceive, you can think about what emptiness is, blah, 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 like that. And you can also contemplate it. You can make your own perception of emptiness. But it's not like seeing an emptiness directly with your naked eyes when you see a flower or a cup of tea, like that. So that is the first two paths. You see emptiness, you are able to see emptiness or the ultimate truth, but in a conceptual way, indirectly. From the path of seeing onwards, path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of no learning, you are able to not only conceive, but to see emptiness, the ultimate truth, as it is, directly, without going through any mediation, without thinking, direct seeing. These are the last three paths. You can see emptiness directly. So people who can see emptiness directly, we call them sublime beings, Arya. In most teachings other than Tibetan Buddhism, they were referred to as what is that word? Arahat. Yeah, but they're not. Yeah, actually, Arahat and Arya are two different things. But in Vietnamese, Chinese, most people refer to people, any individual who have crossed the path of preparation, who can see the emptiness directly, they call them Arahat. So Arahat, actually, the actual term is Arya, meaning the sublime one, beyond ordinary. That is the word, the meaning of the word Arya, not Arhat. Arhat is also there, but it's Arya and Arhat are two different things. It does not contradict each other. An Arahat is always an Arya. Arya is not always an Arahat. Okay, that's going too much into detail. But yeah, that is the thing. So what we are talking about is the path of preparation. Okay, that is the second path in the ordinary being's level, meaning for someone who has not been able to see emptiness directly without mediation. Cannot. So there are two paths, a path of accumulation, path of preparation. We are talking about path of preparation. Now I will not go like dilly-dallying, like go wandering around. I'll just come directly, okay? So we will discuss on path of preparation. So once you part of accumulation is when you start accumulating merit in order to attain enlightenment, to become a Buddha. So from the path of accumulation, the first path of accumulation, until you become enlightened, it is said that you have 3 countless eons to become a Buddha, like that. So the main difference between path of accumulation and the path of accumulation and the path of preparation is that in both stages you are meditating on emptiness. What in meditation we have something called the shamatha and vipassana, right? Calm abiding and insight. So when you're calm abiding, the calm abiding in meditation, your ability to meditate on emptiness turns from the state of calm abiding to the state of vipassana, okay, then you have reached the stage of preparation. Okay, just simply put like that.
Yeah.
I want to make a correction. So shamatha and vipassana all good, okay? So up to that one, I need to make a correction. So shamatha and vipassana, shamatha is calm abiding, like the stabilizer, and vipassana is the wisdom, the insight with like a wisdom.
Yeah.
So up to that point, it's correct. So what I have mistaken in there is that your meditation, when you are your concentration, right? When you are concentrating on emptiness, you're concentrating on emptiness. You have different mental factors such as vipassana and shamatha. When your vipassana and shamatha concentrate, okay, so this is important, okay? When your concentration on emptiness, when you are concentrating on emptiness, your level of vipassana and shamatha, while concentrating on emptiness transforms from the stage of contemplating to the state of meditating. So we talked about 3 stages before: learning, contemplating, meditating. So when while concentrating on emptiness, the shamatha and the vipassana mental factors in your mental stream turns from the contemplating stage to the meditative stage. It is called the path of preparation. While you are in the contemplating state, it's called the path of accumulation. When you advance from the state of contemplating to the state of meditating, then it's called the path of preparation. Tibetan, Jor Lam, like that.
Yeah, Rinpoche,
Yep.
from samatha and vipassana, we
Yeah.
transform to the mental factor into the
So
meditation state.
yeah. So remember, learning, contemplating, and meditation 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your shamatha and vipassana advance from the level of concentration to the level of meditation.
Yeah.
Sorry, contemplating. Your shamatha and vipassana advance from contemplating to meditating.
Yeah.
Clear?
Yeah, clear lah, Rinpoche
Yeah.
lah. I
Okay.
understand lah. Yeah.
So I shared that in the chat box. I made it very clear
Yeah.
and easy to, you know,
Yeah.
so while concentrating on emptiness, so I said off, it should be corrected to on. While concentrating on emptiness, your shamatha and vipassana level advance from the contemplating stage or level to the meditating level. You transcend from the path of accumulation to the path of preparation. So I will not go into what's the difference between contemplating level and the meditating level. That's going to be too much, too deep. We have to study. Usually in the monastery, we study like 1 year for just to understand that. And it's before in India in the long time back among the Buddhist masters, there is no clear explanation on how to differentiate the path. Someone advancing from the path of accumulation to a path of contemplation, the 5 paths, right? How do you advance from this path to that path? How do you advance from that path to that path? Other paths are clear, but how one advances from the path of accumulation, the first path, to the second path, it is not very clear until someone by the name of Lobin Singha, how do you call that? Singha Sangbo. Anyway, so this is considered very very important. Anyway, so part of preparation, okay? Part of preparation, we're going to discuss part of preparation now. Within part of preparation, there are 4 stages. So in the earlier stage, okay, in the earlier stage, the 5 things that we just discussed remain as a force. In the later stages, that force becomes a power. Remember, force means defense, power means offense. Yeah. So I'll just I actually shared it in the chat box already, but I will explain a little bit. I will just read it out. So the 4 stages, the path of preparation has 4 stages within it. So as you meditate further and further, you ascend, you advance from one stage to the next stage, etc., like that. So the 4 stages are called the warmth, like warm, hot, warm, peak, uh, patience or acceptance, and the supreme. The full term is supreme worldly dharma. Okay, so warmth, acceptance, peak or summit, acceptance or patience, and then the supreme. These are the 4 stages within the path of preparation. So during the first stage, the stage warmed. So warmed basically means uh, we just discussed this one, right? You jump from concentrating on emptiness, your shamatha and vipassana, on the level of contemplating to the level of meditation. Because you jumped to new territory, there is an excitement. There is uh, so excitement that kind of makes you feel warm, right? So that's why it's called warm, like that. So
Yeah.
in that stage, the five things, wisdom, confidence, all these things remain as a force. They stop outside attackers, but they cannot uh, eliminate the attackers. Attacker meaning the 5 hindrances. Yeah. Then peak or summit, the second stage is the you have your experience, your meditative experience on emptiness, ultimate truth has deepened, and your meditation also has stabilized much further. And it's like reaching, so you have become very peaceful, like real peace, right? So then it feels like you're on the peak summit. Like normally when we go to the top of a mountain, very high on the summit, there's very peaceful feeling because no distraction, nothing, right? You feel kind of like calmness there. So that's why it's called peak or summit. Stage number 3 is called patience, which is Tibetan soba. So soba is usually translated as patience, but it's more understandable as acceptance. I'm not going to complicate things further, but a Tibetan word soba can be read in 2 ways, soba or soba. So soba means to be able to endure or to accept. Soba means patience. So I'm not going. Anyway, so it is more closer to soba, acceptance or to endure. What it basically means is your meditation level has deepened much further, experiences much further. And now, because you're meditating on emptiness, when we when we were introduced to emptiness in the beginning, emptiness sounds like nothingness. It's so hard to accept. And then as we meditate, we are able to accept emptiness in general, but then there is a stark difference or distance, separation and distance between emptiness and the other things in the world, right? When we were taught about emptiness, when we were introduced to emptiness, we think about emptiness like another thing. Okay, there is chair, there's table, there's laptop, there's car, there's emptiness. Like emptiness, just not one of the other mundane things in life, but it is not so. Because of there is all other things in the world, which is possible only because of emptiness. So basically, what I'm trying to say is the separation and the distance, the gap that we put between emptiness and other things in the world is, how do you call that? Shortened? What is the opposite of widening? I don't know that term. Instead of widening, it goes closer. So the gap is closed. The gap between emptiness and every other thing in the world is closed. Okay. In other words, to make it more simple, something called non-dualism. Non-dual means no two, just one. So emptiness on the one hand and every other thing on the other hand, two things, that is dualism. no dualism, non-dual. If you remember Heart Sutra, emptiness is form, form is emptiness. One. But if you say one, it kind of doesn't serve the purpose. So you have to use the term no two or non-dualism, right? So no two. Emptiness, there's other things in the world, because you can literally hear two different things. Emptiness starts with E. Every other thing starts with O. Two different thing, distinct thing. But it encompasses each other. It's part of, one is the part of the other. So it is a non-dual. We can talk about it all day, but it doesn't really, get in there. So
Yeah.
when you get to the path of patience or the path of acceptance,
Yeah.
then that non-dualism, the gap between the dualistic idea, get closed very deeply.
Yeah.
So because it closed, now you can accept emptiness as one with form. Emptiness is form, form is emptiness, has now become acceptable. So that is the path of acceptance. So when you reach the path of acceptance, then the force, the five forces, become five powers. Then the last one is known as supreme worldly dharma. The only reason it's called worldly dharma is because worldly is similar, it resonates with ordinary. So I told you the first two path of preparation and path of accumulation is ordinary beings, meaning have not seen emptiness directly. So that's called the ordinary or the worldly stage. So this is the last of the worldly stage. So in that understanding, it is also the supreme worldly stage. After that, it's the super mundane or the Arya level. So that's why it's called supreme worldly dharma. Hmm? I think that's the end of today's session. These power. So yeah, the powers become the force become power, meaning from the path of acceptance, these these five powers or the five forces not only blocks the obstacles, but can eliminate the obstacle, right? Do offense. Yeah, so therefore it's called powers. And now this concludes today's session, and then I
Yeah.
will now go to the Q&As. So the first question I think is from iPhone. So question in which you have beautifully shown us how wisdom acts like a shutter, discriminating and separating the real from the unreal, but in our okay. So the actual question is this one: how can we develop the discernment to know not just what to separate, but more crucially, when to engage the shutter of wisdom and when to simply let experiences pass through without grasping? That's a very good question. Yeah. So like any training, trial and error is the method here as well. And trial and error based on mindfulness, or what I usually call alertness. So being mindful of your surrounding, not only the outside external surrounding, but your internal surrounding, not the central mind, but every other satellite mindset that you have within you. Be aware of what that is doing. And then trial and error, in the sense that we talk about the three trainings: uh, learning, contemplating, and meditating. So what you have learned, what you have read, don't just keep reading like a novel book or storybook. Whatever you read, 1 page, 2 page, 10 page you read today, just contemplate on that. What the Buddha said, what the Shantideva said, whatever, contemplate on that. And after contemplating, after observing, then make it your own. Last week we talked about this. Learning is other people's information. When you learn something, when you learn about emptiness, it's not yours. Buddha taught about it, Nagarjuna taught about it. It's their property, their intellectual property. When you contemplate on emptiness and then find out to bear it all out, then you will get your own understanding of emptiness. And that is your intellectual property. Make it your own. And then once you get your own emptiness, version of emptiness, It's not just like uh, uh, your own version of emptiness does not mean you can think about anything. You have to base it on reality, based on teaching, everything, but based on all the uh, um, veritable text of the Buddha and the teachers, and then your own experiences, then come to a conclusion. And once you come into a conclusion, put that into application through meditation. And through meditation, you will find the result, sometime pleasant, sometime unpleasant. In this way, you'll be able to filter out what works, what does not work. So at the end of the day, it's through trial and error. So the in a nutshell, you do that through trial and error based on mindfulness. The next question is about when reciting mantras in the mind, reading daily liturgical text silently in the head, is it permissible to lie down? So basically, can I read Dharma text while lying down? And additionally, when I listen to Dharma teachings, am I allowed to lie down? So two questions, right? Um, can I read Dharma texts while lying down, and also read mantras while lying down in order to when you're about to sleep? And then when you listen to Dharma talk like what we are doing today, can you lie down? So yeah, like three questions. Can I read? Can I recite mantra? And can I listen to Dharma talk while lying down, sleeping like that? Okay. So it's yes and no. Okay. There are two. Strictly speaking, especially in many texts, and also in the especially we go to Shantideva's Bodhisattva's way. It says cannot, not only lying down. When you listen to Dharma talk, praying, not only lying down, you cannot you cannot listen to Dharma talk while having a cap or a hat. When you go to Dharma teaching, remove the hat. Uh, His Holiness the Dalai Lama always makes an exception, says that because when he teaches hundreds of thousands of people and we don't have enough tent or canopy, so he said in the past he does said that. He said that, oh, okay, if it's very sunny right now, put on your cap, put on your umbrella like that. So exceptions given by lamas, by the teacher, exceptions. In general, cannot wear hat, cannot wear, you know, um, to put it bluntly, you cannot wear heavy makeups when you come to teaching because you are come to, you know, uh, train the mind. You're not come here to do modeling. So you cannot put up heavy makeup, put on heavy scent, perfume, and then like jewelry, like expensive watches. When we listen to Dharma talk, we usually remove. In the past, watches are expensive. So whenever there's a teaching, all the monks, all the kempos, abbots, rinpoches, they remove the watch and put it on the. Nowadays, watch is not expensive, right? It's an ordinary thing, commodity now. So it doesn't really matter. It depends on the situation. So if you have a Rolex watch, or if it's still very expensive, right? Omega, Rolex, jewelry like gold, maybe just hide it in there. Don't display it. You don't come here to model. You don't come here to flex. You come here to tame your mind. So, strictly speaking, you cannot do any of that, let alone lying down and listening to Dharma. No. Exceptions, like Dalai Lama said, it's raining, right? Like that. If you are sick and you still want to listen to Dharma, you are sick. Buddha said, sick person always have an exception. Never la mixel, right? Never is sick. Sick person always have an exception. If you're sick, you can lie down instead of watching movie or doing something, not fruitful thing. Yeah, it's better to listen to Dhamma talk. And you are sick. You're physically unable to stand. Yes. You are physically unable to do cross-legged. Yes. Then you extend your leg like that. Okay. Now it's so the same technique applies to the other questions. Can I do meditation while lying down? Generally speaking, we have something called daily practices, daily Dharma practices. We dedicate that time for just to do practices. While you do that, you go to the temple or the altar or or a designated space in your room and sit properly, how would you, okay, Buddha is important person or not? He is very important person, right? If you have a very important guest coming to your home, will you be in your shorts, your pajamas, in your flip-flops? No. Important guest is coming, you will be in your best formals, and then you will greet the guest. You will actually clean the room like that. So you may have an altar room, you may not have an altar room, doesn't matter. Sit properly, dress properly, and do your prayers and daily everything properly. Again, exception. You are sick, yeah, you can lie down and do it. And then when you go to sleep, like for a normal, ordinary person, you are going to sleep, you cannot fall asleep. Instead of thinking about, okay, how to cheat others, how to, outwit others, do this and that, think of Buddha's teaching, listen to a Dharma talk, just play a YouTube music on Om Mani Padme Hum or some Dharma teaching. Yes, acceptable. Very much so, like that. There's one question about doing such a thing is a transgression or not. It's not a transgression. You will be so it's out of style, or you're going outside of the spiritual etiquette. Uh, but it's not a transgression of any sort. Yeah. Now we will go to the dedication, please. Please do the dedication in Tibetan first, just the dedication lines, and then jump to the Vietnamese dedication, please. Gewan di nyurdo da lama sangyen rukyo nen chowa che kyang ma lu ke ye salang ge bara sho injan jo sem jo rembo je ma ye ban ke gyuro je ge ba nyam ba me bara yang kong ne gong do me wara jo. Okay. No need Tongkhor Rinpoche, no need any of that. Just jump to the Vietnamese dedication.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche La.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your attention, for your time. And I apologize for going over time once again. But yeah, really, really hope it helpful. And I wish you all a very, how do you say, very exciting weekend. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Rinpoche La. Thank you
Yeah,
very
thank you
much.
so much. Thank you, Mr. Hung and Chi Wang.